Welcome, everyone. I'm Assemblymember Al Marisucci. I want to thank all of you for joining us for our virtual coffee. This is an opportunity for you to hear what's going on, not only in our state capital, but also what's going on in our city. I'm so pleased to be joined tonight with our mayor of Torrance, Pat Fury, as well as our city manager, Ram Japarian. So let me first welcome Mayor Fury and see if he has any opening remarks. Good evening, Mayor. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you, Al. I appreciate the opportunity to join with you tonight. Always spirited conversations and lots of questions. And between the two of us, hopefully we come up with resolutions or at least somewhat answers on to the public. Here we are at the end of the year already, and it's been 21 months that we've been fighting with the pandemic. Looks like we may be coming to the end of it. I'm really happy to report the last numbers of vaccinations in our city have been very encouraging. Almost 98% of our senior population, those over the age of 65, have been vaccinated. Hopefully they're getting in line for their booster shots. Now we have some of our children, 5 to 11-year-olds, are getting vaccinated as well. Schools are back in session, and that's a great thing. Virtual learning hopefully will be behind us. But I'm certain that our school district is ready to swivel however they have to do it. So we're looking forward to closing out the books on 2021, hopefully on a high note. I do have to give the bad news is that our budgetary conditions in our city are horrific. Not all of it caused by the pandemic, but that certainly exasperated what was happening in our finances. But we are going forward. We're asking the community to give us what their thoughts are via some polls we're taking. And actually you can chime in, go onto our website and give us the information that you believe is important, the programs that you think is important. We just did 5% budget cuts across the board, but we didn't cut anything in the police and fire budgets because public safety is of paramount importance to our community. But come next July 1st, we're going to have to make some tremendous budget cuts. Draconian is the only way I can describe them, unless we find an outlet to bring in some more capital. And along those lines, we are looking to bring forth perhaps a sales tax initiative in the June ballot. We will be electing a new mayor and 3 new council members on that same ballot. And I will be leaving office, as term limits have told me this is the end of my road. But I don't want to leave the next policymakers in a lurch. So I'm going to fight really hard to get a ballot measure on the ballot to raise our sales tax measure by 0.75%, which equates to about $7.50 for every $1,000 that somebody spends in our city. And the good news is that most of that spending is done by people who don't live in our city, as visitors who go to our malls or buy cars in our auto dealerships or other commodities that they're buying in our city. But we will benefit. And I think our tagline is going to be, it's your money, it's your city. And hopefully we can gather enough votes to get this sales tax measure on and not only balance our budget, but and keep the services that you know and like, but also attempt to enhance our services as we go forward. So thank you, Al, for a few moments. I don't want to bogart all of your time.
That's all good. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving an update, and really appreciate you and Aram for joining us, because I know that, you know, as I've been doing these virtual town halls in all of the cities that I represent in the South Bay, from Manhattan Beach down through Palos Verdes, with, of course, the largest city in the South Bay, the city of Torrance. And oftentimes, you know, people have questions that kind of go from, you know, state government jurisdiction to local government jurisdiction. And so, you know, we are all here to serve our constituents. And so I really appreciate you and Mr. Japarian to be available for any questions that may come up. Mr. Japarian, did you have anything to add? Not sure if I might be calling you on the spot. Maybe he's eating his dinner now, which is one of the joys and privileges of doing this by Zoom. Okay, I don't see Aram Japarian, our Torrance city manager, coming on. Maybe at some point he'll be able to join us afterwards, especially for any questions. So let me just give you a quick overview of what we hope to do this evening in the next hour and a half. I just wanted to quickly touch upon some issues that I know we've been hearing from all of you in terms of your concerns, what's going on in the state capitol, whether it's housing, whether it's COVID, whether it's the economy, whether it's homelessness, whether it's the state of our schools and funding for our schools, on and on. This is your opportunity for you to raise any concerns that you may have, any issues that you have. And we will do the best to answer your questions tonight. If not tonight, we'll get back to you with the right information. So let me just quickly touch on. We'll start off with where the mayor started off. I pulled up this article that I just printed a couple of weeks ago. How did California go from COVID-19 epicenter to the lowest statewide transmission rate in the entire country? I think all of us know the answer, but we here in the state of California, we have aggressively tried to follow the science and to enforce the requests to everyone, as many people as possible, to get your vaccine shots, to wear your mask, especially when you're indoor, and to try to be safe and to continue to to try to protect ourselves, our loved ones, as much as possible. As a result, at least as of the time I printed this article 2 weeks ago, California had the lowest vaccine infection rate among all states in the United States of America. And so, I think that's something that we like to look for excuses to be able to pat ourselves on the back, and I think that's one of them. Economists have always said that if we can turn the tide with this pandemic, then the fundamentals of our economy are looking good, and so we did see that at least in terms of the macro economics of our state. We saw that not only with the state being able to recover from many of the depths that we experienced in the first year of the pandemic in 2020, especially with the arrival of the vaccines. But still yet, we know that one of the biggest concerns that we're seeing in the state of California is this growing gap between the rich and the middle class, not even talking about the poor, the middle class. And nowhere do we see that more than on the issue of housing. The housing crisis, the affordability, of housing is one of the biggest issues, not only facing many of us, living in the South Bay, especially those who don't own but who rent, seeing the ever escalating rent costs, as well as, the businesses, the employers in the state of California, many of whom are competing like in the Silicon Valley or in the aerospace industry. They tell me that they're having a difficult time attracting talent to the state of California because they just have a hard time competing with the biggest challenge being housing costs. So I know that there was a very controversial bill this year, diving into controversy. Senate Bill 9, SB 9, which is a bill that basically overrides local cities' abilities to zone for single family zoning and to allow for a single family lot to be divided into basically 2 units with 2 accompanying accessory dwelling units to accompany them. So for a total of potentially up to 4 units on a single lot. This was a bill that was trying to address this issue of the housing shortage. Based on the basic macroeconomic theory that of supply and demand. How do we make housing more affordable? We need to build more housing. The state of California's population has doubled since 1980. It's gone from about 20 million in 1980 to now approaching 40 million. And yet, and we know, those of you that have lived in the South Bay since the 1980s know that the housing supply has not doubled during that same amount of time. So that's the intent behind it. But I voted against SB 9. I heard from many of you, many in the South Bay, especially in Torrance. Having lived in the South Bay for 25 years, I know that we cherish our quality of life in the South Bay. We want to make sure that we are addressing the housing crisis, but not at the expense of the quality of life that so many of us enjoy. And so I want to make sure. I used to sit on the Torrance Planning Commission, and I know that we put a lot of thought. Our local electeds, like Mayor Fury, put in a lot of thought in terms of making sure that we're planning responsibly for growth, to make sure that there's not too much impact on traffic, too much impact on the infrastructure, whether it's water or electricity or on and on. And of course, the impact on our schools and the enrollment. And so I do believe that we need to build more housing, but not at the expense of local control. And that's why I voted against SB 9. Unfortunately, SB 9 did pass, and it was signed by Governor Newsom. But most economists are saying that it should not dramatically change your neighborhoods. There may be some lots here or there that may be converted into duplexes with the ADUs built, but the experts, so-called experts, are projecting that it should not affect more than 5% of all single-family zoned lots throughout the state of California. Another way that I tried to fight back against many of these bills coming out of Sacramento that are taking away local control is my introduction of a Assembly Constitutional Amendment, ACA 7, which seeks to reestablish the cities as having primary jurisdiction over zoning and land use decisions. Again, that is based on my belief that our mayors and council members, our planning commissioners, they're the ones that you run into the Ralphs or the Vons, and you can bend their ear and talk about how you're concerned about overdevelopment in your communities. And I think government, especially when it comes to land use and planning, is best done at the local level rather than Sacramento imposing a one-size-fits-all for the entire state. So that's another measure that I'm put forward and I'm working on. Related to the housing issue is the issue of homelessness. I mean, you talk to the homeless experts, the homelessness experts, and they all tell you that there's a direct correlation between the affordability of housing and the growing numbers of homelessness. Of course, we all know that homelessness is not just a housing issue; it's also a mental health issue. It's a substance abuse issue, but primarily it's an issue that's driven by too many people that are one accident or one loss of a job away from not being able to keep up with their rent payments. They slide from their apartments to living in their cars to too often living on the streets. And so I know that the city of Torrance, along with all communities throughout the state, are trying to grapple with this challenge of the growing numbers of the homeless. There's a great pilot program in Redondo Beach that I believe the city of Torrance is going to follow. It's putting up these tiny homes, what are called pallet shelters, so that they're like little tin tool sheds with a bed and a communal bathroom, communal shower, it's to try to not only get people off of the street but also to allow our local police to be able to enforce, some of the, to clear out encampments so that, it doesn't become a public safety threat to any one of our neighborhoods, any one of our communities. I know the Torrance tiny home project is scheduled to be opening, I believe, around the end of December. Mayor Fury, correct me if I'm wrong. Also, in the effort to fight the homeless crisis in the South Bay, there's also another wonderful program that's also been piloted in Redondo Beach. It's a homeless court. Basically, rather than punishing people with criminal convictions for being poor, there's this pilot program that LA County has launched in the city of Redondo Beach to basically use the criminal courts as a point of intervention to try to coordinate these wraparound services, the substance abuse, addiction services, the mental health services, the job placement, housing placement services, bringing it all together at these homeless courts in order to try to provide a more permanent solution for many people that are struggling and that are living on the streets. So that's another effort that I'm working on, supporting to try to get more state funding for this homeless court effort to intervene in these people's lives and try to turn their lives around, try to help them out and get them off the street. Last but not least, as a former Torrance school board member, I know that our Torrance schools are extremely important for the Torrance community, and so I've continued over my years serving as your representative in the state assembly. I've constantly fought for more funding for our Torrance schools. We want to make sure that we have the resources necessary for our teachers, our principals, our students, so that they can continue to thrive and succeed. One effort that perhaps was less relevant to the Torrance community, but it was extremely relevant for the larger state of California, was my efforts to help secure $7 billion in state funding to help close the digital divide, as we saw in terms of access to affordable, reliable internet service. And so that was a major project that I worked on this year. So those are just some of the things that I've been working on. But let me just open it up now to take people's questions or hear people's concerns. We have, well, first of all, before I go any further, I want to make sure that everyone knows that that my assembly district office is located in Torrance on the south end of the Del Amo Mall at the corner of Carson and Madrona. And so, well, right now we continue to practice our COVID safety protocols. And so we're not taking any in-person meetings, but, definitely feel free to call us, to email us. And, our South Bay district staff has been working hard to help so many people that have been struggling during this pandemic. And so I know on the call we have Melissa Ramoso, our district director, Andrew DeBlock, our senior field representative, and Eric Ponce, also a field representative on the call. And so is it Eric or Andrew? Who's first up in terms of their question?
Absolutely. So just quickly to set some ground rules for folks, we're very excited to have a conversation tonight, and we have a great example with Mr. Obejas. So I've already done exactly what I'd like folks to do. If you have a question or a comment, please raise your hand by using the raised hand function and the reactions button at the very bottom of your screen. And you're also welcome to drop questions in the chat as others have done. So I'll start by unmuting Mr. Obejas, and we'll unmute you one at a time as your questions come, and I will take the hands as I see them. So thank you so much.
And Andrew, before we go to Mr. Obejas, I also see that there are questions being written in the chat, and so I'll leave it up to you to direct me as to which ones to take first.
Will do, and thankfully, Mr. Obejas has the first hand and the first question in the chat, so he's
okay.
doing his job well.
All right, thank you. Mr. Obejas, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Al. Thank you. First time I ever saw you at a coffee was ages ago, seems like a lifetime ago, at Catalina Coffee. You were doing coffee on a corner. Thank you for being, exposing yourself, putting yourself out there. I really do appreciate it. You've been doing a good job for us, in particular with these housing bills. I want to focus on the question that I wrote in the chat. Hopefully you've had time to look at it. It seems like most of the efforts have been on, hey, we're going to pry single family housing away from you, cities, and we're going to, allow developers to just do whatever the heck they want there, changes the character. To me, the place where you can find, reasonable and more affordable housing would be, there's plenty of unused and underused commercial space around. Any driving around it, you look around, you'll see, available signs all over the place. I mentioned in my chat question, the Sears property is a, classic poster boy for it. It's sitting there, not generating revenue for anybody. Most of these places are already developed. They were designed to handle multiple people, during the day, sometimes at night, for power, water, parking, etc. They're perfect. They're already built. It's not like, my neighborhood, my single family neighborhood wasn't designed to have, 16 unit houses, etc. So Senator Portantino, which most people here probably have never heard of, has tried to champion some bills which actually do provide some incentives to local governments to do this kind of thing. The legislative clock has run out every year. Seems like the brother just can't get any love. And I'm wondering, what can you do to try to mine this space to get some, real housing built? There really are young people who want to, live in this area, and they're frustrated. This, to me, is the better way to get it, rather than destroying single family housing. Hopefully that wasn't a long speech. Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you. A very thoughtful question and comments. So yeah, I was going to I was thinking there was a bill that was trying to incentivize communities to take unused commercial properties and to build housing on it. And of course, you had identified it was Senator Portantino's bill. That is definitely an ongoing effort that I should probably I'll take your comment and your question as direction for me to look into it more. I know that when I was on the Torrance Planning Commission in the early 2000s, there was a lot of, I remember there was a lot of debate over subdividing properties and building duplexes, especially in the old Torrance area, because the old Torrance area was zoned R3. And I see Mayor Fury nodding his head because he was there as part of the coalition of Torrance homeowners associations representing North Torrance. Yeah, and so I know that the single family neighborhoods are sacred to people that live in Torrance. At the same time, Mario, you made the excellent point that what about our kids and our grandkids? I mean, if they want to have a chance to be able to live in Torrance or anywhere in the South Bay, we need to build more housing in order to make it affordable. And so, Mario, you're correctly pointing out that we should be able to try to balance these considerations, that perhaps having more concentrated housing, more high density housing in commercial areas, rather than infringing into our single family neighborhoods. The Portantino bill is a 2-year bill that's pending in the state assembly, and so I will make sure to make sure that will be able to help communities like Torrance to do exactly what you're encouraging. So thank you, Mario, for raising this. Okay.
Excellent.
and-
And at this point, I would like to give Mr. Chaparian a chance to speak. We did not give him privilege to unmute earlier, so forgive us for that. And please, if you'd like to comment, we'd love to have you comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Andrew. Good evening, everyone. Again, I apologize. I wasn't trying to dodge the intro. I couldn't unmute. Echo everything that the mayor said. We're dealing with some significant challenges. At the same time, we're still focused at the day-to-day operations of the city, making sure we respond to the residents' needs, as well as manage our recovery with the COVID circumstances. But thank you for the opportunity. I'm available. In regards to Sears, I believe they're in hard escrow for development of that site. We don't have the buyer's public information yet, but lots of changes happening in Torrance, including the work, Solomon, you mentioned with the pallet shelters at the Civic Center. We're working through the funding approvals and hoping to open early 2022. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll stand by for any questions.
All right. Thank you, sir. And actually, I had requested to Torrance Police Chief Hart that maybe before you start opening up that homeless project, I wanted to spend a night in one of those tiny homes to try to make sure that I have a ground level perspective on how it would have an impact on the surrounding neighborhoods. So, Mr. Chapari, and I hope you'll be able to accommodate me there. Maybe Mayor Fury will join me and we can bunk up on a tiny home together. Yeah. Yes, and actually, this reminds me. Maybe I could just bring up another issue that's been very much a concern in the Torrance community, which is your youth sports complex. I know that Mayor Fury, were you saying that the details are still not public, that negotiations are ongoing?
I had to unmute myself. Actually, we're really close. We've been back and forth with the Judicial Council. It looks like we've come to a resolution. It's a lot more than we used to pay, but we've got some community partners that will be coming in and assisting us with the new levels of the rent that we'll be paying. Unfortunately, what we found out during that period of time is, and what Mario brought up about repurposing commercial or industrial property, and like you said, Al, in the early 2000s, the industrial commercial properties were ripe for developers to buy them up and turn them into housing because that's where the money was at. Unfortunately, things have changed now. The industrial property, it's going for even more than residential property for some reason. So warehousing, research and development, that's everything that everybody wants. The refinery has sold off 2 properties already for development, right next to the Madrona Bridge, one on the west side, which is really moving along rather rapidly. And then they have another one over where the posse used to be, or is currently. They'll be moving that. So those will both be industrial properties. And then they have a property for sale on 190th Street between Crenshaw and Van Ness, a large swath of property there, again, for industrial purposes. So the industrial and commercial, although everybody seems to see all these vacant spots, they're not as vacant as some people would believe they are. And the landlords, the owners of the properties, are trying to maximize their benefits. As Mr. Chaparian pointed out, the Sears property, every iteration I've seen of what they want to put in there includes a housing element. I'm hopeful that there'll be a convention center element as well, maybe some more retail, as well as a hotel. But that's just my wish list there. The old Montgomery Wards property, which was right back in 2000 for moving along some of the elected officials, looks like they want to put housing in there as well. So some of the bigger project, the Gable House Bowl, there's an option on that as we speak with a developer to put housing in there. Somebody in the chat pointed out, but there's no low income. Well, I think that's where our legislator has come up with the bonuses for developers, that there will be bonus elements that can make the density higher so they can get some low income housing in there and intermix them rather than having set up low income housing alone, be actually integrated in with the housing, which is a much smarter, I think, idea to do it that way. So, you know, there's lots working on that, but it's going so very, very slow. But I'm really happy that it looks like we will have the soccer fields for the next 7 years. How's that for making a long answer to a short question?
No, that's yeah, that's great. I know that I got a call from the Judicial Council about a week or two ago, giving me an update on that. But it sounded like there was progress being made in the negotiations, and so.
And your help was instrumental in that. Your help, as well as our state senators and our Congress congressional representatives. So I think that went a long ways. And the judicial officers at our court, they are very supportive of the idea.
Yeah.
The tagline is they'd rather have kids playing on the soccer fields than sitting in the courtroom.
That's right. And Torrance is the birthplace of the AYSO. So we want to make sure that we continue that proud tradition. Thanks, sir. Andrew, shall we take the next question?
Great. Our next question comes from the chat from Sung Yu. I'm going to read it out unless that person would like to raise their hand and speak. I'd be happy to unmute you. I'll give you 1 second to take that opportunity. Okay. He asks, I have a huge bill for my COVID vaccine. I am now anti-vaccine solely for reasons of affordability. Future vaccines will be out of economic reach for me. I required an ER visit to verify that I would not need a steroid shot to negate the vaccine following an allergic reaction. Why doesn't the CARES Act cover this contingency? And then it's mentioned that staffer Aaron Forberger is working with this person and had checked on this, and they thank you for your service as well.
All right. Well, I'm a little confused here because it was my understanding that the COVID vaccines are guaranteed to be free, and so all right. Andrew, do you have any background on this?
No, but I'm happy to personally follow up and check with Aaron and Mark, make sure that we personally follow up with this individual to figure out what we can do, because that's my understanding as well.
Yeah. And I guess Aaron is not on this call, so he won't be able to give us a little more background. But yes, Sung, thank you for raising your concerns. I mean, you know, absolutely, the COVID vaccine should be free. You know, we want to encourage as many people as possible to get their vaccines. If you wanted to unmute yourself and you know, perhaps clarify, otherwise we'd be happy to follow up and make sure that you're taken care of. So.
Thank you both so much. I really appreciate this. Yeah, this was I think it was an oversight of the CARES Act not to have covered this contingency. And so I had an allergic reaction, but it wasn't life-threatening, but I needed those tests in the ER to confirm that I'd be okay, just waiting out the symptoms so that I would not have to negate the vaccine with the steroid shot. And so we had an internal review process, external review process. This was from, you know, June on till now. And Aaron has been a part of that for all these months. And the word now is I am still on the hook for this bill. And I feel like, well, you know, there's the booster, there are other potential vaccines in the pipeline that I'll need. And I'm concerned about affordability here.
Of course. Yeah. So it sounds like this might be a little more complicated than what I can answer at this time. And so we will definitely follow up and do the best we can to help you out. So thank you for raising this issue.
And next, I have Michael's iPad. I saw your hand next, and I'm going to unmute you now.
Are we on?
Yes, you are.
We on? Okay,
Yep.
This is Michael.
Hello.
And this is Patsy, Hannah, and I thank you for taking the time to listen to our concerns. My subject tonight is the 405 freeway, all the work's being done between Western and Van Ness and I live on 187th Place, which is between Western and Van Ness. My backyard, it borders the freeway. Our backyard is up against the 405 freeway. We have lived here since 1984. To be honest with you, we are very angry. We are appalled, disgusted, and everything else that the city of Torrance, Caltrans, or the state of California didn't even give us a heads up that construction was going to be done, and no prior notification. And it hit us completely by surprise. The people that were going to be the most impacted by this, all this goings on, we weren't even told. Caltrans indicates that there is no significant impact. I invite any city official, any official, to come and spend a few hours at my home and feel my house vibrate, my dishes chatter. It's like having an earthquake. One Thursday, about 3 weeks ago, they had the drill or whatever, and it was a 2-hour earthquake. I kid you not. The neighbors left their homes. And I don't know, and cracks are appearing in my house now. I just hope that our foundation hasn't been compromised at this point. The noise level is tremendous. I mean, it is tremendous. I can open I'm in my back room. If I open the door, you can hear it. We can see the cars on the freeway. The noise level is very high, and the freeway, all the dust and grime and everything else. And the peace has been highly, diminished. So what I'd like to have the things that I would like to have addressed is to inform us what is actually being done. We're in the dark here. No one has, we didn't get a flyer on our door. We didn't get any indication. And our property values right now have diminished. I mean, they are down. If I tried to sell my house, there is no way. And people would come. And now I don't even know how far that freeway wall is going to be to my backyard. Right now, it's just feet away. It looks like it may be just 10 feet away from my back fence. And this is a problem. So we need to know. I think the city owes it to us. I think the city officials, the mayor, and all you people owe it to us to come and let us know. Nobody indicated anything. Some people said, well, maybe it was on social media. Well, you know what? We're old folks. I have my daughter here, and she's the one that has gotten me on the Zoom. But we aren't social media people. When Edison comes by, they hang a notice on my door, or I get it through the mail, that there's going to be work being done. The city usually does that too. This is a major thing. Now and it's all speculation. It's rumors all over the place, and nobody really knows what's going on. We don't know if it's going to last till 24. That's what we were hearing now. It's going to last till 2024. Some say it's going to last till the spring. We don't know. We are in the dark. We need to know. The second one is we need to know the timeline. And 3, we need to know who do we call to report damage on our homes. Because with Caltrans telling us, and I would like to know what kind of report they did to let us know that it was actually going to be, no impact. The noise has been well over ambient conditions, and that is 5 dBA, and based on the description, for well over 6 months. So it's a problem. It's it's shaking our home. The neighbors, their solar panels are covered in dust and debris. And it's not the Caltrans workers, but this yesterday we actually filmed in our home, and you could hear inside our home, our whole house trembling. And I was hoping that it would pick up on the phone. Yes, go ahead and add something.
One thing, I think I was in construction for quite a years of my working life, and if you're going to be into an area that affects people's food, their sleep, and their
General
well-being, it might not be a bad idea for a Torrance building inspector, wouldn't make any difference what trade it was, to come to our house. We would welcome him with an ice cold cup of water, and he could go to our backyard and check out what is going to be the freeway amongst tons and tons of dirt that's being just rallied around on a daily basis. Maybe, I hope it will. I hope it will be very beautiful when it's finished. But right now, like Patsy, my wife, was saying, it's a major inconvenience. And for somebody that's been in construction a while, I've seen a whole bunch of different things with regarding to asbestos and so on. This is a problem.
Mhm.
And
All
so
right.
I would like you guys to kind of address it. Let us kind of know what's going on. I mean, I think as taxpayers here, I live in North Torrance, and I know that the mayor also lives in North Torrance. We're right on the border of Gardena. And I'm sorry to say that we are forgotten here. The trees never got trimmed. The only time they got trimmed was when the trash man came, and he knocked off a few limbs. Anyway, I just feel like we're a little bit forgotten
All right.
here. I really wish that somebody would address this for us.
Okay.
What are your comments, please?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Patsy. Thank you, Michael, for raising your frustration. We all feel your frustration. I'm wondering, Aram, if you might be able to answer what.
Yes, Suleiman. Yes, Adam Chorian, City Manager. It was brought to my attention that Caltrans may have not followed their protocols for notifying neighbors. Our Public Works team is aware, and we'll be reaching out to the folks with additional information, and we'll connect them with the appropriate Caltrans representatives. And if the city needs to intervene, we will. Thank you.
So
I'd like to jump in there,
Go ahead,
Al,
Mayor.
Patsy and Dave as well. I knew that it was coming, and I was still shocked when it started. You're right. There was no outreach at all, and Caltrans is at fault with that. It's a Caltrans project. It's not a City of Torrance project, although we are involved in it because of the financing of it, and as well as the need for it. We recognize the need, but we will, as Aram pointed out, we'll have Caltrans follow up with you as well as all the neighbors along there. It was all of a sudden I came up and drove down the street, and holy cow, they're already doing it. I didn't expect it that soon. I expected we would have some notification. I'm within the sound waves of there as well, and you're absolutely right. I can only imagine being bordered right on there. A dear friend of mine is on the other side of it, and I know he's been impacted by it as well. So hopefully we'll get Caltrans on the stick with this.
all right, and Patsy and Michael, I'm sorry you have to go through. Your neighbors have to go through this miserable situation. I will definitely help. Work with the city to do whatever I can to make sure that we can improve the awful situation that you're dealing with now. So I want to thank you. I'm sure that all of your neighbors are right there with you, wanting to raise the same concerns. So we'll make sure that we follow up with you. Please call my office, after you contact the City Public Works, and we'll make sure that we put you in touch with Caltrans. All right, Andrew, who's next?
And I do want to note there are several more comments along these lines in the chat, but in interest of making sure everyone's voice is heard, we're going to move to another topic and allow Robert Dundrup had made several comments in the chat. I wanted to see if he had a desire to speak, or if he was okay. And I see you, sir. If you want to wave, if you want to make a comment, I'll unmute you. And if not, we'll move to the next question.
Hey, Robert, you want to raise your question? I suspect it's about affordable housing. That's right. I'm looking at the chat.
Thank you, Al. No, I actually really liked what Mario had said regarding the utilization of the commercial properties. I think that it does solve a couple of things. One is that it takes us away from the arguments we constantly hear about high density and single family residential neighborhoods, number one. Number two, I think that affordable housing needs to have a transit mobility option in there. And I think that's absolutely very important, because transit mobility is really the stepping stone for a lot of these folks moving into these affordable homes to be able to sort of take that next economic step upward. So in a lot of ways, what Mario basically said makes a whole lot of sense. And other than the density bonus, which I loved hearing about, by the way, as being one of the incentives, I think one of the other things that really could be looked at is maybe looking at options to maybe basically work with developers to reduce parking spots, for example, in some of these. That's number one. It kind of alleviates that constant question we hear about more and more traffic jams and on intersections and whatnot. But if you locate the affordable housing correctly, you can reduce parking spots in those developments, and you can but none at the same time actually still keep that transit mobility going with bus stops. And I understand we're getting a light rail line as well on Hawthorne. So all of this stuff kind of makes sense. Where best to build affordable housing other than next to rail lines? You literally open the entire world for a lot of folks moving into these homes to be able to hop on a train and use that transit mobility to be able to enhance their economic livelihoods as well. Their job opportunities grows exponentially with light rail.
Yeah.
So it all just makes sense. And I just thought that I'm really happy Mario brought it up. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Robert. I know you're a longtime champion for housing, and so appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also, Andrew, before you go on, I see Ron Long posted a comment that I'd seen someone else raising this point, asking if Caltrans can put up a temporary sound barrier along the 405 construction. And so we will definitely follow up with that request also. I know that hopefully will help address some of the problems that the 405 construction is causing. Andrew, I see Lauren Koch. Should I go to that or?
I saw Linda D had her hand up next. I want to be respectful
Okay.
of the order in
Yes.
which folks raise their hands. So I'm going to ask Linda to unmute.
Yes. Hi, Linda. There we go.
Hi, thank you so much. First, I want to thank you for this evening and making this opportunity available to us. I also want to thank you because your office helped me out with the whole EDD process during the COVID, when we couldn't get a hold of anybody and it was just impossible. Your office was able to get somebody to call us and to take care of it. And we had a whole office of people that really needed the help. So that was big. So thank you for that. And I was just wondering, as we're talking about development in different areas, is there anything you can share about the old Toyota property and what's happening there?
All right, that's another local city issue. And so Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chaparian.
Happy to do that. There's actually Sarah's Regis is the developer that's over there, and they're in their third stage as the present time. They cut that property into quarters. And the first two stages are fully leased out to basically some big companies, some emerging companies. One company went into phase one and already got so big they had to move to phase two for a bigger property. And it's really, some of the companies they're bringing in are really dynamic. The president of the company is named Peter Rooney. He and I converse on a regular basis, and his job to me is to bring more jobs to that property than were there before. And he's very proud that he's going to probably get 4,500 jobs within that area over there. A lot of high-tech businesses. I cut the ribbon on a new business just next to that the other day. And there's started off with 26 employees 2 years ago. There are 200 employees as we speak today. All of their employees make six figures or above, and they're already looking at enlarging as well. So we have the locations. That's one of the problems, as I mentioned before. The industrial and commercial properties are so valuable because people want to be here. They want to be in Torrance. They want to be midway between the port and the airport. They want to be off the freeway. They want train service, and we can provide all of that. So then it comes back to where's our housing problem, and the state is taking one method. I saw in the chat some people are very pleased with the ADU situation, and ADUs, I don't know if you're aware of them, auxiliary dwelling units, and that's where people can actually build a granny house on their property without too much interference from the city, or not too much input from the city. So that's one method. And then AB 9 and 10, and when I say we, local elected officials are putting together a ballot measure to defeat the purposes of that and bring it back to local control. We believe that we know the best way to put in housing. And I really, I think we have experts on our planning commission, as well as many of our residents. They understand. Mr. Doldrup, he understands housing, and Mario does as well. They are subject matter experts in some respects. So we appreciate their help.
Thank you for that.
And thank you, Linda, for the acknowledging my hardworking staff that's been helping so many people with the EDD claims. I know it's been a nightmare of a bureaucracy for people that that have been struggling during the pandemic. But that is what our office is here for, to help people deal with the state bureaucracy. And so if there's anything we can do to help, please give our office a call. Thank you, Linda. Next, Andrew.
Yep, I'm going to go to the chat next. We have Lauren Koch. Lauren asks or writes, I live in Old Torrance and many of my neighbors have ADUs. I support it. We still have a wonderful neighborhood. Personal property rights also include my neighbor's ability to add extra houses. And I wanted to give Lauren a chance to speak if she wanted. Lauren, message me if you change your mind. I don't see anything at this point, and I'll go next to the hand that I saw next, which is Sid. And I'm going to ask you now to unmute Sid.
Hi, Sid.
Sid, please accept the invitation to unmute so we can hear you.
I wrote down my situation. I hope that you could see it. Read it.
Let's see. I'm scrolling through the chat. I don't see. Is it marked from Sid?
I can read it if you would like.
Yes, please.
Okay. The Torrance Airport has increased the many airplanes that use it as home base. This means that the noise and health issues have also increased. There is no noise abatement program in place. I believe it ended last December. And from the little information I was able to get, it has not been brought up by the governing powers, the Airport Commission and so forth and so on. Have not addressed it as far as I can tell, because no one's notified me that they have, or anyone else I know. Okay, so there's no place for people who are unhappy about the increased noise and airplanes over many homes daily at many hours depending on the time, and how many complaints they did pay attention to seemed to make a difference at times. And unfortunately, before COVID, there were some accidents and things seemed to calm down. Unfortunately, because it's unfortunate anytime there's a loss of life or incident or property, but especially people, which are hard to replace. This is a problem that many local airports are facing today and have in the past. I'm adding now as I keep talking. When local airports and the cities that own them, or what other counties or whatever governing body, when they don't address that, some of the remedy I seem to have found is when city council members and mayors are replaced. And that's unfortunate for the people already in office, I'm sure. But when no one in a governing position takes any notice or any interest or any way to at least acknowledge there is a problem for some people, it's not good. So my question is, what will Torrance do, since they own the airport, with this now? And I realize we have many, many other problems which are very serious, but this is also a problem that should be noted at least. Thank you
Yes.
for being here and doing this.
Yes.
My turn again.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
Sid, you're absolutely right. The council, over my objections, did away with our noise monitoring system last December. Apparently, they didn't think it gave them enough bang for their buck. I thought it did. And one of my other colleagues also voted to keep the system. They got rid of the system without having a backup system. So now we're in the process, and we've already done a request for proposals. It looks like we have a viable noise monitoring system. When I say viable, it's probably, I think our bill was around $35,000 a year. I think our new bill will probably be more than $100,000 a year. So again, they were penny wise and pound foolish by doing what they did. I had a meeting with the Riviera Homeowners Association just last week, and we had a spirited discussion about the noise there, left turns as well. I put together with the president of the Riviera Homeowners Association, as well as one of their activists there, Richard Root, who is very much listening to the noise from the airports and documenting and making the reports when necessary. We had a meeting with our staff and explained all of that system to them. So there's also the issue about left turns. Some of the planes make early left turns right over the housing there. And without the noise monitoring, it's very difficult to ding them for it by us. But a lot of times the FAA is in charge. And my understanding is whenever the FAA tells them they can make a left turn, they can make a left turn even over above our noise issues. But that comes to conversations between the city government and the federal government to ask them. Air safety is the most important thing. And that's what they always tell us, that they made a left turn because they were told to do it. I was told the other night that Mr. Root monitors the conversations, and he said more often than not, it's a pilot asking to make a left to make a shortcut. So, the conversations will come about. We will have a noise monitoring system put back into place, hopefully within the short term. And when I'm talking terms, I want to tell you, don't bother voting for me ever again, because I term out of office in 239 days. So it'll be a new mayor, it'll be new council members that'll be addressing these issues. Sometimes term limits are a good thing, and sometimes term limits are not a good thing for the continuity purposes. But hopefully that addressed some of your questions, Sid. Do we have a resolution today? Not at all. Is it in the offing? Yes, it is. Before I leave office, you will have a noise monitoring system there, and we will have a better relationship with the FAA.
I think there are other issues with that. No one's really addressed, evidently, let me ask you this. There is a environmental agency or division, it would be a more correct term, supposedly within the city and the airport. What do they actually do?
Well,
those are some big issues with airplanes that fly that low. And there have been some studies, not enough, I was looking into some of them. There was a big one done in 2005 about Logan Airport, which of course is an international airport.
A little bit bigger than ours.
But it's the same idea, because the fuel is the same fuel that they use that we can't use in cars anymore because of health reasons.
Well, we don't use jet fuel at the airport.
When you have planes flying low, it affects the air much more than if they're way up over 3,000 feet. We have
I can't
we have
answer these
people
questions, and
flying.
I said
I have walked
expert
and I
on it.
have had plane after plane within a half hour, maybe 8 planes flying, one after the other. I live very close to 235th and Crenshaw. Okay, so I'm probably in what is called the training area, which is another question that I have for you to answer, perhaps, or someone. We have at least 4 training schools plus the helicopter training school. How many more schools are we going to put in? What is the long-term goal of the airport? Are they going to keep adding more planes?
Actually, Sid, the numbers are just amazing because there was more than 400 incidents. And an incident is somebody who lands or takes off at the airport just 15 years ago. And we're down to about 160,000 now. There was 450,000, just like I said, 15 years ago. And we're at about 125,000 touches there at the present time. So traffic has gone down. It's the noise level has gone up. And a lot of that is brought on because of doing away with the noise monitoring. We cannot cite an airplane unless we have demonstrative evidence. And demonstrative evidence would be through the machinery that we use for noise monitoring. So that's what our environmental quality office does, and they cite them. And I've had hearings on them when they come to the court to council. And if they get cited 3 times and convicted, they lose their rights to be at the airport. The training facilities, actually, we've had 1 training facility leave our city because of our enforcement. Another came in. We keep after them as much as possible. Now, will we wipe it all out? I think a lot of this is an anomaly because of doing away with the sound monitoring. Hopefully we can get that back. We can get your life back in order and less problems at the airport. Airports are, you have to think of them as an asset as opposed to being a detriment. If we have, and we know we're going to have a big earthquake someday, that airport's going to be a godsend to us.
All right, Sid, I think
I think you've been muted now.
Sid, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to move on. There are a lot of different concerns in the community. You absolutely raised an important concern, and thank you very much for raising that. We'll make sure that we continue to try to protect people's quality of life, especially those in the flight path of the Torrance Airport. Andrew, what is the next?
Next hand I saw belongs to Norma Jean. I'm going to ask Norma Jean to unmute.
All right, Norma Jean, good evening.
Hi, and that's my wife's name. This is her iPad. My name is Stephen
All right.
And it's getting back to what Patsy was speaking about. And I was the one that spoke of the temporary sound wall. And yes, at the beginning, us Torrance residents, we do treasure our quality of life. And the issue was that the noise and air quality should have been addressed through the environmental impact report by Caltrans, but they pushed this through using the Seeker negative declaration to kind of bypass everything because of COVID. And if they had done this appropriately, they should have been monitoring our air quality and providing some type of noise mitigation and dust mitigation during this construction period. And since it's going for 2024, what is the latest post I saw on the Torrance website, that's 3+ years of dealing with this construction issue. I know you addressed it and said that you'll speak and bring up this mitigation resolution with Caltrans to try and put up some type of barrier up there just to at least block it off so we don't have to see it. And it's something that is done widely throughout the South Bay. We see it on the Palos Verdes Boulevard and Prospect corner there where they tore down the old Annabelle's that used to be there. That's all blocked off with some kind of blockade. Also up on Sepulveda, just north of Torrance, they're doing the same thing up there. So, and the cost of that is minor compared to what they're spending on like 405 construction. The addition of a temporary wall is an insignificant cost for Caltrans, and just the cost of the backhoe that they use for 1 week will cover the cost of that installation. So the cost shouldn't be a factor on that.
Okay, well, thank you, sir.
So that'll end mine, and thank you for taking my questions. Appreciate it.
Of course. Again, we'll definitely follow up on trying to get Caltrans to put up that temporary sound barrier. See if we can try to mitigate.
Can I ask also, if we can find, are they going to build the wall prior to working on the roadway too? And that'll help block off a lot of these issues as well. If the wall is the first thing they work on and then follow through with the rest of the road work.
Okay. So we'll follow up with that, but if you don't hear soon enough, please call my office and
Okay. Yes, I do have your information.
Okay, and our information is posted in the chat for anyone else that may want to follow up either with my office or with City Hall.
Okay, again, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, sir. All right, Andrew, who's next?
Our next hand is Yu Yao. I'm going to ask you to unmute now.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, respected Assembly Member Al, and thank you, Mayor, and all the staff and all the respected guests. Thank you for all taking the time and to share what's going on with the city. And it's wonderful to see how our community is engaged in solving these problems to help us to live in a better life. And today, what I just want to share is some thoughts around education, around how we can build a society that's peaceful, harmonic, that let the people do the work. It's all started from the experiment that the vulnerable master Jen Kong Fa Shi, he did back then in 2004, 2005, apply the traditional morale-focused teaching, which we call in China, it's the standard for students, which is very equivalent to what is called the essential 55 by round clock that applied there to teach the teacher to be that role model. Don't only teach things, but through your behavior, to be a behavioral leader. And he thought it's taking long, but only 3 months. Those teachers, they are trained. And then let those teachers to be that anchor, to teach the people in that little town called Tangchi, a little town, to teach the people there, not only through words, but through the action. And the teacher teach students include parents, include small kids. And there, to their amazement, only 3 months to 6 months, the little town experienced a tremendous amount of change. The change include lower crime rate, lower divorce, and better economic growth. Why? They taught people to do that right thing. And I felt it's so important at this moment with all the things going on, and just want to bring to everybody's attention what as a society, what as a older generation, we are going to pass that value toward our today's generation. It's morality, ethics that's focused in our current education system. Our society has done a great job to train our people, to train the students, be able to do the work.
So Ms. Yao, do you have like an organization, or maybe if you post in the chat for those that want to learn more about your program, if they can email you or you know.
I would love to. It's just I know from individual, because I learned from the teachings, and it's published in UNESCO. It's back then in 2005, he did that experiment. And then that raised amazement to the world. And then people went to that little town to learn what has been done there. Of course, that example is hard to duplicate without the teachers to be that role model. But today I
Okay,
just
well,
want to leverage as a platform to share, to see what we can do.
okay, well,
I will share that link.
yeah, if you can share that link, we would very much appreciate it. Thank you very much for sharing that. All right, thank you.
Next up, we have Deb Osborne. Deb, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hello, Deb.
Hello?
Yes, we can
Hello?
hear.
Great. Thank you for taking my call. I live at Skyline Mobile Home Park in Torrance. And the reason I'm calling is what assistance we have for our park in terms of rent control. Our park recently was taken over with new ownership, and we immediately got a letter increasing our rent $196 per month. And we know from researching the company that took over that we can expect similar increases in rent ongoing and possibly park upgrades. And since this is a 55 and over park, we're wondering what avenues are available to us in terms of rent control inclusion under AB 1482 or possibly a city ordinance. We're just needing some assistance, and who do we go to, and any help that you can provide.
All right, thank you. I did, my staff did receive, similar concerns from your Skyline community. And it sounds like it's basically rent control that you're asking for.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So I know that there was a bill that was very limited in scope that was trying to provide some measure of rent control for mobile home owners in terms of the rent charged to your lot space. And certainly, I think your concern is just one of many, examples of how people are struggling to keep up with their rent. I do need to look into your situation further. My staff did brief me on the Skyline situation.
Okay.
But definitely, please contact my office, and we will follow up and see what we can do. Mayor or Mr.
I can
Opry?
chime in. I got a lot of information on that.
Okay, great.
My understanding is, and you're absolutely correct, Deb, they first raised the rent 196. Since then, they have kind of dialed it back a little bit to make it within the 1482 levels. So my understanding is it's $96 a month. I guess that goes into effect December 31st, and then June 30th, there'll be another $100. And by structuring it that way, it actually comes within the the 5% plus this COLA that attaches to it. I also noticed that they also sent a rent subsidy program for people who live there right now, much the same as HUD or Section 8, which may give some relief. And the interesting thing, and Al referred to it, Assembly Bill 978, which is really a rent control for a specific, if you will, mobile home park, I guess that skirts through Fullerton and Anaheim. But when I read the actual language of the bill, it only affects it has to be a mobile park that is in 2 jurisdictions, and it has to be in a county that has between 2.5 million and 3.25 million in residents, which is only Orange County. It's something that we could look at it statewide as maybe amending that to include all counties. LA County being more than 10 million people, so it didn't qualify for that. But I think if you look at the rent subsidies that they're offering right now, that may be helpful for a number of people who are living there. Again, like I said, they have structured it to be $96 one year and then $100 the next year, which would actually fall within a pattern of 1482.
So if I could just comment on that, actually, it's going to be $96 until July 1st of this year. And then it's going to go up another $100 to $196 beginning July 1st to the rest of the year.
Right, but when you do the calculation that it's within the 10%, or I think it's 7%, the first one, the 96, or no, it's 8%. And then the following one, because that 96 is added into it, it becomes 7.5%. I've seen the numbers. I mean,
yeah,
obviously they have somebody doing the number crunching for them. They can figure out.
So I think one of the things, so we understand what's going on this year. I think we have grave concerns about what's going to happen in continuing years. What's the 5-year plan going to look like? We know we've done some research into the history of this company, and it's not favorable. And so our concern is, what can we do now we know this year is taken care of. What are we going to do in the future? It's going to be very difficult to sustain $200 a month rent increases if they continue to go in that direction, which they've done in other areas. So that's our concern. So any help we can get, anything to help lessen the impact of future rent increases, along with any park upgrades they may do, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for sharing that, your concern. We will definitely follow up. So thank you for speaking on behalf of your community.
Okay. Just was going to say, unfortunately, we're coming close to the end of our time this evening, hitting our 7:30 end of our scheduled program. So just want to make sure that folks know we do have time for probably one more question, but we have recorded everything that's in the chat. And Eric from your office shared contact information. So if your question is not addressed tonight, please do call or email the office, and we'll be sure to get you an answer as soon as possible. That said, we have Natalie's hand raised next, and I'm going to ask Natalie to unmute.
Thank you very much. I would like to again thank you for the opportunity to ask questions and voice our concerns. We all appreciate it. And I just want to add a little bit more to Ms. Safran's statement about the airport. I ditto everything she has said, so I won't repeat that. But I'll just say two things that are major consideration. The early left, as it's called, does seem to be an FAA consideration. And earlier, we've been told that the city would have to sue FAA to get that removed. So that means it's not just a local issue, it's a federal issue, if that is true. I guess there's a question of whether the city of Torrance actually has the right to not allow that, since FAA allows it. I believe that's correct. The mayor can address that. But anyway, regardless of that, so it's not just a city of Torrance issue in that problem. Two, it's not just a city of Torrance issue because other cities have the same complaints. I went to an airport commission meeting in July over this issue. There were people from Lomita, Redondo Beach. I believe I've seen on next door some complaints from Manhattan Beach, but I think at that meeting it was just those 3 cities, well, 4 including Torrance. So it's many people in your district, assembly member. And in July, we heard that the noise monitoring system would be back in place by September or October. I don't know, in my business, I'm in commercial real estate, and if I have a serious supplier of service, I don't fire that service until I've replaced it, rebid it, et cetera. I understand RFPs take time. I understand it takes time to get the bids, but none of us are really feeling confident that it's going to be taken care of quickly. I have to keep my windows closed. I have worked from my home since I've lived here 6-7 years. And I've had to tell people I have to call them back because I can't continue a conversation. And that's sometimes even with my windows closed. I do a lot of international teaching on Zoom, and I've had to stop the class because even with my windows closed, they have trouble hearing me. I appreciate the tax value of the airport, but there's financial damage to our home as well as absolutely damaging the ability to enjoy our homes. I wrote in the chat what the 4 issues are, the way I understand them, and I think is hurting it. So I'll let the chat sit there because I know you're out of time. I just wanted to piggyback on to Ms. Safran's comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Again, I know that the issues of noise from the Torrance Airport has been a longstanding issue, but we will, as the mayor indicated earlier. Mayor, is there anything else that you wanted to add on that issue? I think you pretty much stated.
I don't know who told her that September, because there was no way was that going to happen. But what happened with that, Natalie? They should have never done away with it, and you're absolutely right. And that comes with, I think, the problem we have with term limits. Sometimes people come in and you don't have that historical recognition of what it took to put that into place and what the benefit it gave us. And they were just looking at dollars and cents and decided they didn't need it. Obviously, we were getting less complaints because of that, because as soon as they did away with that, the complaint levels went right up.
All right. Thank you, sir. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of our allotted time. I know that there are other questions I see regarding vaccine mandates, regarding state legislature being too light on crime. We will have to get back to you. I just quickly, I definitely do support the science. I support vaccines. I want to make sure that we are protecting the public as much as possible. I share your concerns about many of the laws being passed over my objection over, criminal, public safety issues. I am a former prosecutor, and I want to make sure that we keep our neighborhoods safe. But unfortunately, we have reached the end of our time, and so I'm going to have to wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We had a very robust conversation. I see some other friends on the call with their hands up, like Jimmy Gal, that didn't get a chance to ask their questions. But if you have any other questions or need any assistance, Eric Ponce just posted our phone number, our email, and so please follow up with us. Thank you all. Hope everyone stays safe, healthy, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Did you have any parting words?
No, just everybody have a safe and happy Thanksgiving and into the holiday season. Hopefully, the new year will bring us a much better year than 2020 and 2021. Let's look for 2022 to be the big year where everything kind of works out in all of our favor.
That's right, including cutting down on all that noise out there. Yeah.
Whether it's the freeway or the airport.
That's right. Yeah. Mr. Chaparian, thank you very much, City Manager for the City of Torrance.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Appreciate the opportunity, sir. Good night, everyone.
Thank you both for your service, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.